Chapter 9. I arrived on time for the meeting with Selena Bass, his mother, the civilian clerk told me. They already started. Room D upstairs. The door was unlocked. The door was unlocked, the AC blasted. Milo sat opposite Emily Greenbass. His tie was knotted neatly and his face was soft. I've seen him practice in front of a mirror before meeting with grief-stricken relatives, loosening his muscles. Keeping the wolf glare out of his eyes. Emily Greenbass's white hair was now long and French braided. She wore a black mock turtle over her long gray skirt and black suede flats. Jewelry dealer, but no babbles. Her features were laser cut, too sharp for beautiful, a handsome woman during good times, and now she was icy statuary. Two bulky men in their 30s sat on the side of the table. The older one wore a yellow golf shirt, brown slacks, and deck shoes. Reddish blonde hair was side parted, ex, ex, ecu, ex, executive style, close shaved, bold necked, three martini nose. The younger one darker, just as husky, but with a bonier boots. Wavy brown hair hung to his shoulders, a triangular soul patch with was white blonde. A cronium chain dropped from a rear pocket, and when he turned to get it jangled, Milo introduced me. These are Selena's mom and brothers, Dr. Delaware. Emily Greenbass held out a long, white hand that felt as if it had just left the freezer. I encased it briefly with both of mine, and her gray eyes got wet. Polo shirt said, Chris Green. Soul Patch muttered, Mark. We were just going to over Selena's life in LA. Mark had some contact with Selena after she moved here. She visited me in Oakland, said Mark. Said she was doing fine, and she emailed the same thing to Mom. Emily Greenbass hadn't taken her eyes off of me. I'm glad a psychologist is here. What happened has got to be psychotic, and there hasn't been anything extreme in Selena's life. Not for a long time. Mark Green said, There never was. It was basic, adolescent crap. If you say so, Marcus. Wan smiled. It sure didn't seem that way when I had to contend with it. Mark's shoulders rose and fell, his chain jangled, and he reached behind to quiet it. I did the same crap, and so did Chris. Only difference is that we were better at covering up, looking to his brother for confirmation. Chris said, Uh-oh. Unfortunately for Selena, Mark went on. She had a compulsion to confess everything, right? Chris smiled sadly, like a Catholic thing, except we're not Catholic. First, she tried out the script on us, said Mark. I smoked a joint. I watched an movie on cable. I lied about where I was to Mom. We're like, don't tell us stupid, and for sure don't tell Mom. So of course she did. Emily Greenbass began crying. Milo said, typical teenage stuff. Mark Green said, this is a waste of time. Chris said, what that she was into the whole music thing. So what? Chill, Mark. I want them to have all of the facts. The facts are that she was in the wrong place, wrong time, ran into Ted Bundy's reincarnation. No one spoke. Mark Green said, this may be news to all of the concerned, but being into the whole music thing doesn't make her a freak. Her basic mindset was conventional. When she met some of the people I have to hang with, she thought they were weird. Milo said, which people are those? Mark said, from work. Which is where? that relevant. His mother said, Marcus, he's trying to help. Good for him. To Milo, I work wherever they pay me. Emily Greenbass said, Mark has a degree in acoustical engineering. I do some recording and amplification, mostly concerts and Andy films. And as long as we're doing the official family bio thing, Bio Bro Chris works for Starbucks. That's an obscure coffee company in Seattle. Chris said, Marketing and distribution. I said, When did Selena visit you, Mark? A year ago, and maybe 6 months after that. The first time I was working on a picture and she trailed along. That's when she told me that the people I hung with were bizarre, which was true of the particular crew, I guess. Half the dialogue was in Italian, the rest was pantomime. Some sort of tribune to Pasolini, but nobody actually knew Italian. His brother said, and the Oscar goes on. Hey, we can't all ride the caffeine train, Milo said. Selena's second visit was when I asked her up for the weekend so that I could introduce her to Cleo, then my lover, now my wife. We just had our first baby, which is why I should be home. Can we move this along? Milo sat and crossed his legs. If you've got nothing more to tell us, feel free to go. Milo rubbed his soul patch, shoved his hair behind left ear, blue and green. He aimed a wreath of vines. I hoped the marriage lasted. Well, the hell. Or what the hell, he said. I'm booked on 9 p.m. No sense changing it. Chris said. Selena saw you twice, huh? That's 2 more times than she bothered to call me back. Guess she was too busy for corporate chit-chat. Chris turned away from his brother. Milo said, You call her? Just to see how she was doing. When was the last time you spoke to her? I don't know. 2 years ago? Mark said. Obviously, they were a close-knit family. Emily Greenbass said, Chris and Mark's father and I broke up when the boys were 1 and 3, and he hasn't been heard from since. Frowning at her son as if it was there. Selena's dad a year later. Dan was good to you guys. No argument. Dan passed away when Selena was 6, and I raised her alone, and I'm sure there are some people would say I screwed it up. Chris said, You did fine, Mom. Mark said, Can we stay focused on Selena? Silence. Why get distracted? He said. Selena was talented, but essentially straight as they come. I'm not saying she never puffed a doobie, but even when she and Mom were doing their hostility thing, she never did anything spiteful, like hooking up with someone iffy. Just the opposite. We used to call her Sister C, as in celibate. She'd call herself that, said Chris. Milo said, What about boyfriends? Mark said, Nope. Mrs. Greenbass? No, I've never saw anyone. So, she covered her face. Mark reached out to pat his mother's shoulders. She drew away. Oh God, she said. Those were through her fingers. This is so horrible. Mark's lip templed. All I'm saying, Mom, is that Selena didn't bring it up upon herself. Shit happens. Life sucks. Like stepping off of a curb and some asshole comes barreling down. That just happened to be me. Right after Cleo gave birth to Phaedra, I left the hospital to get some champagne, was floating on air, and I stepped off the curb, and this fucking San Francisco Examiner truck comes out of nowhere, misses me by a millimeter. Marcus, don't tell me those things. I don't want to hear them. Milo said, So, no boyfriend anyone aware of? What about friends, people she hung with, here in L.A.? No answer. Emily said, She did seem to be happy about work. That's what she finally emailed me about, teaching that rich kid, said Mark. She said it was a dream gig. She called it to herself or tell me because I'm into music too. Used to play bass. Not that I was ever close to Selena's level. I'm competent and she's brilliant. She sat down at the piano when she was 3 and just played the fucking thing. By 5, she was doing Gershwin by ear, give her anything, she could play it. I watched her pick up a clarinet cold and run off a scale. She got the breathing right away. Sounds like a prodigy, said Milo. No one used that word. We just thought that she was amazing. Emily Greenbass said, I was so busy supporting us, I was happy she had something to occupy her. Mark said, "One day I come in, and I'm talking years ago, when Selena was 8 or 9, and she's in the living room strumming my guitar. The guitar was new and birthday present. I got pissed that she took it without my permission, and then I realized she actually is making music on it. Never had a lesson, and she's taught herself a bunch of chords, and her tone's better than mine." Emily said, "When she was 11, I could see piano was something that she wanted to stick with, so I got her a teacher. This was back when we lived in Iowa. Ames band equipment had a program for the schools, and Selena outgrew the first teacher they gave her, then two others. They said I needed to find someone with serious classical training. And when we moved to Long Island, I found an old woman in the city who'd been a professor in the Soviet Union, Mrs. New or Nemraz, Madame Nemraz. She was ancient, wore ball gowns. Selena studied with her until she was 15. Then one day she just quit. She said she hated classical music. I told her that she was wasting her God given talent. She'd never play again. She said I was wrong. I got pretty. That was one of our biggest disagreements. It was a tough time. Selena had totally abandoned her schoolwork, was getting D's and F's. She claimed that she was learning more from life than any stupid school could teach her. Mark muttered, "No shit." I said, "Did she stop playing?" "No, I was wrong. She actually played more, just not a lot of classical pieces. Though every so often she'd do a little Litz or Chopin, whatever," said smile, or sad smile, the Chopin and Chudes. She liked the ones in minor keys, or at least that's what she said. I don't know a thing about music. Selena got her talent from her father. He played guitar, banjo, you name it, but bluegrass stuff. He was originally from Arkansas. Madame Nimraz was said Selena was one of the quickest sight readers she'd ever thought or taught. Had perfect pitch. In her view, Selena hadn't been one of the great concert pianists if she'd ever wanted to. Mark said she thought touring around playing Beethoven for stuffed shirts would rob her life of normalcy, and so this was better, said Emily, doing absolutely nothing until she was 21, then packing up and moving to LA without telling me, without any job prospects. Milo said she ran away. When you're not a minor, that they don't call it that. I come home and she packed her bags and left a note that she was moving to the coast, and not to try to stop her. I was frantic. She phoned a few days later, but wouldn't tell me where she was. I finally pried out the fact that she was in LA, but she refused to say where. She claimed that she was supporting herself with gigs, whatever that meant. Mark said she got some club dates playing background keyboard. His mother stared at him. "Well, that's news to me, Marcus. Then it's good that I'm here to inform you." Emily Greenbass's hand rose and arched toward his face. She checked herself, shuddered. "Lieutenant, the fact that Selena and I are in regular contact was her choice, not mine. She shut me out completely. I have no idea what she's been doing all these years. It's been hellish not knowing. And if I didn't have a business to run, I'd have come out here and tracked her down. I called the police, but couldn't provide any address, so they couldn't tell me which station to contact. And since Selena wasn't a minor and she had left voluntarily, that wasn't anything I can do. And their biggest suggestion was I contact a private detective. Besides being expensive, I knew that kind of snooping would irate Selena, so I minded my own business, kept telling myself that she was all right." Milo said, "When did you call the department?" "Right at the beginning, must have been 4 or 5 years ago. I kept hoping that she'd ask for money. At least I'd had an inkling what she was up to," swiveling toward Mark. "Now, you're telling me that you knew all along that she was up to what she was up to." Mark grinned squirmed. It wasn't a big deal. To me, it was. She didn't want you to know what she was doing. Figured you'd try to stop her. Why would I stop her? Silence. I wouldn't have stopped her, said Emily Greenbass. Now, you tell me everything you know, Marcus, everything. Mark tortured his hair. Now, Marcus, it's nothing, I'm sure. Shut up and talk, Marcus. Fine. She didn't want you to know because the scene was and really wasn't her thing. She was just playing music. What are you talking about? Mom, she swore me not to secrecy. I had no reason to violate. Now you do, sighed Milo. Okay, but it really boils down to nothing. Like I said, she was playing in clubs, and that led to parties. Turning to his mother. Okay, some were situations.